For weeks, someone kept stealing my lunch at work, and everyone knew who it was. Management did nothing, so I got creative. I told him I started adding something special to my food, my own menstrual blood. I even showed videos. What happened next? He vanished for a week and never touched another meal in that fridge again. Let me take you back about 10 years. I had just started this new job, freshly hired into what I thought would be a supportive, semi-professional workplace with decent people and a fully stocked kitchen. You know, one of those modern office setups where you think the biggest challenge will be surviving long meetings, passive-aggressive emails, and the occasional awkward birthday cake gathering. Nope. Turns out, my biggest challenge was a fridge thief. Now, I'm not talking about some once-in-a-blue-moon, oops, I thought this was mine kind of mistake. This was consistent, calculated, personal. Let me explain. I'm a creature of habit. I bring my lunch from home almost every day because I like to cook, I eat clean, and frankly, I hate wasting money on sad office food or overpriced salad bars. I'd lovingly pack my meals in nice containers, sometimes leftovers, sometimes cute little bento-style things with labels and everything. I'd put them in the office fridge around 9 a.m., and by lunchtime, gone. Or were emptied. My lunchbox would still be there, tucked away in the back like some kind of sick trophy, but completely cleaned out. A forkful left behind, a scrap of rice sticking to the side, sometimes not even that. And this wasn't just once or twice. It started happening at least twice a week, every week. At first, I thought I was going crazy. I checked the fridge 3 times one Monday, thinking I might have left my lunch in the car. Then I double-checked if I'd eaten it and somehow forgotten. Nope. My food was being stolen right under my nose, and someone didn't even have the decency to throw away the container. It felt like some kind of twisted calling card. Now, I was new at the company, just settling into the team, still learning names, figuring out who was cool and who to avoid. So, I didn't want to come out swinging right away. Instead, I started asking around casually, of course. Lighthearted stuff like, "Hey, has anyone ever had their food go missing from the fridge?" Or, "Weird question, but do things sometimes disappear around here?" And that's when the truth started to unfold. Nearly everyone had a story. Turns out, our office had a repeat lunch offender. A grown adult man, mid-40s, walked around like he owned the place. Loud, obnoxious. The kind of guy who cracks sexist jokes in meetings and then claims it's just humor when people don't laugh. He had this constant smirk that made your skin crawl and a booming laugh that made even HR hide behind their desks. Let's call him Derek, because of course, that's his name. Derek had a reputation. People had long suspected him of being the fridge thief, and several co-workers swore up and down it was him. Some had even caught him hovering around the kitchen, sneaking peeks in the fridge like he was hunting for prey. But management? Completely useless. Apparently, several people had complained. HR's official response was something along the lines of, "Unless you catch someone in the act, there's not much we can do." Seriously? This man was pilfering food like it was his job, and the best they could do was shrug and say, "Well, maybe label your Tupperware better." It was infuriating. Now, I'm not one to let petty things get to me, unless they keep happening. And this was just the beginning. It wasn't just the theft, it was who was doing it and how he got away with it. It was Derek. Derek, who would lean over your desk just a little too close. Derek, who once commented that women don't really belong in tech unless they look like you, whatever the hell that meant. Derek, who looked down on everyone who didn't share his warped, misogynistic view of the world. And Derek was eating my lunch. So yeah, I was mad, but more than that, I was ready. Because if management wasn't going to do anything, and if Derek was going to keep snacking on my meals like I was running a free cafe, then I was going to take matters into my own hands. You see, I may not be confrontational, but I am extremely petty, and I had plenty of time to plot. After that second full week of watching my lunches vanish while Derek sauntered around with that smug, dead-eyed smirk, I decided to stop reacting and start scheming. The thing about people like Derek is they think they're untouchable. They believe the rules don't apply to them, especially when no one's enforcing them. But I've learned that the best way to handle egos that big is not to confront them head-on. That's what they expect. No, the best revenge is when they don't even know they've been targeted until it's too late, when they've walked right into your trap thinking they're still in control. So I began Phase 1, Operation Decoy Lunch. Instead of my usual lovingly prepared meals, I switched to something a little less appealing to me, but still believable enough to pass as lunch. Think sad turkey sandwiches, half-soggy wraps, boring couscous with no seasoning, the kind of food you'd only eat if you were desperate or just really nosy. I made sure the container looked just like my usual lunchbox, even used the same stickers and labels so there wouldn't be any red flags. Meanwhile, I actually brought my real food in a separate, smaller, cooler bag and kept it hidden in my filing cabinet. No one knew. I'd eat quietly at my desk while Derek made his daily pilgrimage to the fridge, smugly confident that he was still getting away with his lunchtime heists. And oh boy, did he keep going for it. Every time I placed a decoy lunch in the fridge, it came back either empty or barely touched. He never took the whole thing, just enough to make sure I knew he'd been there. That was his signature move. It wasn't just theft, it was a power play. A way to say, I can take whatever I want and you won't stop me. But what Derek didn't know was that his reign of passive-aggressive terror was about to end, because Phase 2 was about to begin, and this part was, well, a little gross, on purpose. I started floating this story around the office. Not directly to Derek, that would be too obvious, but to everyone else. The break room, casual coffee chats, loud enough for him to overhear. You see, I'd recently discovered a new health and wellness practice, very niche, very unconventional. One I claimed I was extremely passionate about. I told anyone who'd listen with just the right mix of excitement and earnestness that I'd begun experimenting with menstrual nutrition. Yes, you read that right. I said I had started collecting my period blood using a menstrual cup and then recycling it into homemade recipes for the supposed health benefits. I kept my tone scientific and matter-of-fact, like it was just another trendy lifestyle hack, the way some people talk about bone broth or kale smoothies. I even went so far as to say it was ancestral medicine, and that women needed to reclaim the nutrients our bodies lose monthly. I made sure Derek overheard me at least twice. I even made a show of watching a recipe video on my phone one day near the kitchen. It was obviously fake, just some YouTube cooking thing with weird filters, but I pretended it was me preparing one of my special lunches, complete with a dramatic pour of something red and suspicious into a pot. The reactions were priceless. People around the office either thought I had lost my mind, joined a cult, or had suddenly gone full moon worshipping herbalist. But I didn't care. It was worth it for the performance. And best of all, the bait was set. That Monday, I brought in a new special lunch and made sure to label it boldly in red Sharpie. Homemade, do not touch. Contains personal wellness ingredients. I even added a heart. I put it in the fridge, went back to my desk, and waited. Guess what? The next time I checked, it was gone. And let me tell you, I didn't smile. I beamed. I didn't just win. I delivered a psychological KO. Whether he believed it was real or not, whether he gagged in the bathroom or just sat in his office trying to convince himself I was bluffing, it didn't matter. Because he knew. He knew there was even a chance he had eaten someone's menstrual creation, and there is no level of macho ego or locker room bravado that survives a thought like that. That's the kind of thing that lingers in your head. It haunts your taste buds. It questions your entire life. And just like that, Derek disappeared. He took a full week off work. No one knew why. He didn't call in sick, no vacation planned, just poof, vanished. And when he came back, something had changed. He wasn't hovering near the fridge anymore. In fact, he barely went near the kitchen. He brought in sealed protein shakes and granola bars like he was training for an apocalypse. The fridge? Off limits. Mission accomplished. When Derek finally returned to work the following week, the shift in his energy was immediate. Gone was the overconfident fridge-raiding alpha who used to hover near the kitchen like it was his throne. Now he was quiet, careful. He looked haunted in a way only someone who suspects they've consumed bodily fluids can be haunted. His walk was slower. His eyes darted more, and every time I so much as walked near the break room, he stiffened like a board. He wasn't talking to anyone unless he had to. The loud, snarky comments? Gone. The passive-aggressive post-it notes on communal stuff? Vanished. He avoided conversations, meetings, even eye contact. The office fridge might as well have been a cursed relic. Instead of eating like he used to, stealing bites out of other people's lunch containers, like he owned the place, Derek now brought only store-sealed food. Every day. Factory-wrapped granola bars, bottled protein shakes, and ready-made sandwiches in shrink wrap. He wouldn't even drink from the office coffee pot anymore. He brought a thermos. The man was on a self-imposed exile from the entire break room ecosystem. Now, here's the thing. I never directly accused him. Not once. Not even a glance that said, "I know what you did." And that made it worse for him. Because when you give someone room to imagine what might happen next, their anxiety does the rest. I started hearing whispers. Not from Derek, of course, but from others. One coworker leaned over during a meeting and whispered, "Hey, I don't know if it's true, but I heard you put blood in your food?" I shrugged and replied calmly, "Self-healing starts from the inside, right?" She blinked, nodded slowly, and then never touched my lunchbox in the fridge again. Not that she ever had, but now it was practically radioactive. Meanwhile, Derek became the subject of a quiet, deliciously petty legend. A few coworkers figured it out, not the details, but the broad strokes. They knew someone had been stealing lunches. They knew someone, me, had pulled a move so bizarre and unsettling that it caused a grown man to ghost the office for a week. They didn't need the full story to respect the outcome. And that's when the best part happened. My lunch started staying untouched. Always. Not just by Derek, by anyone. The fridge became sacred ground. My little containers were never moved, never misplaced, and certainly never raided. Even when someone accidentally threw out another person's lunch, which did happen, mine stayed untouched, like a shrine. No one dared go near it. The story, whatever version they believed, had worked. As the weeks passed, Derek slowly returned to something like his old self, but dimmed, quieter, humbled. The kind of guy who now double-checks that his yogurt hasn't been tampered with. The kind of guy who probably still wakes up at night wondering if what he ate was real or just a cruel trick of paranoia. But me? I thrived. I didn't say a word about it again. Never confirmed or denied anything. I just went on with my life, smug in the knowledge that the lunch thief had been served a psychological 3-course meal of guilt, disgust, and paranoia, and I hadn't broken a single rule to do it. And because I know what you're wondering, did I ever actually put anything weird in the lunch? Of course not. I'm not a lunatic. I'm just petty and smart and slightly unhinged when you push me too far. The only thing that might have gone into one of those decoy lunches besides couscous was maybe a little leftover foot scrub from my spa day. But hey, exfoliated toes are better than menstrual magic, right? Looking back now, I still smile when I think about it. Not because of the deception or even the pettiness of it all, though. Sure, that was deeply satisfying. No, what really makes it worth it is that justice didn't need a confrontation. I didn't scream. I didn't file a complaint with HR. I didn't start a food war or slap a dramatic note on the fridge. I used strategy. I used reputation. I used imagination as my revenge weapon. And the thief, the cocky, loudmouth, untouchable, Derek handed me the perfect canvas. See, here's what most people don't understand about petty revenge. It's not about screaming the loudest. It's not about making them cry or getting even in some big dramatic showdown. It's not about ruining someone's life over lunch. It's about making them think, making them wonder just long enough if the world is watching. And sometimes, that's all it takes to stop bad behavior dead in its tracks. What happened with Derek taught me that the smallest act, when crafted just right, can have a ripple effect. That silence can be more deafening than shouting. That mystery can be more haunting than accusations. And that sometimes, the best revenge isn't a slap in the face. It's the ghost of a moment they can never quite forget. I still work in the same field. Different company now. Better people, better kitchen rules. But I always bring my own lunch. And every time I tuck it into the fridge, I still smile because no one has ever touched it since. Derek? I heard he switched offices not long after. He now brings a padlocked lunchbox and eats with his back to the wall. Smart man. Took him a while, but he learned. And me? Let's just say my lunches are still delicious. My foot scrub is long gone. And my reputation? Untouchable. Because in this office, everyone remembers the time the lunch thief met his match and walked right into a trap he thought tasted like couscous.